Hello and welcome back to my channel. So it is time to talk about my September TBR. This was going to be just Shorty September, but then Scott over at Gunpowder Fiction and Plot announced Straya September, and I was like, fine, okay, I'll do that as well. But since I only had one suitable book, which was Devotion by Hannah Kent, I thought, why don't I keep my actual physical book reading for Shorty September, and then I could do Straya September, the audiobook version, and then we'd get the accent as well for the full-on experience. I should probably say that Straya September is a month-long readathon where you are encouraged to read books by Australian authors. Scott has made two different levels for this event. One is basically just read any book by an Australian author, and then the next level has 4 different prompts. I know one of them is to read a book by an Indigenous author, and another one is a book by an immigrant author, and then I can't quite remember the other 2. But of course you should just check out Scott's video. I'll link it below. So I had a little browse through my audiobook app. I use Storytel, which is similar to Scribd, I think, in that you pay a monthly fee and then you have unlimited access to everything in their catalogue. And I found a couple of options. The first one is one that I want to prioritize, and that is No Friend But the Mountains by Behruz Bouchani. I had this on my periphery for a while, but I think it was Lindy over at Lindy's Magpie Reads. Her review finally convinced me to pick it up. So the author was a refugee from Iran, I believe, who sought asylum in Australia, but he ended up illegally at this detention center, which was basically just a prison. And he wrote this memoir by sending out text messages on a phone that he secretly obtained, which his friend then translated into English from Farsi. Yeah, I think this will be a very difficult and hard-hitting book to read. I have Boy Swallows Universe by Trent Dalton. I remember seeing this around quite a bit when it first came out, but I can't really remember if people liked it or not. Apparently it is an utterly wonderful debut novel of love, crime, magic, fate, and a boy's coming of age set in 1980s Australia. Sounds good to me. And then I have 2 books by Indigenous authors. The first is The Yield by Tara June Winch, which I had on my want to read list for quite a while. Do I have any idea what it's about? No. I think maybe it's about family and identity and the Indigenous heritage. And then the other one is The White Girl by Tony Birch, which I hadn't heard about before. And this is a story about the stolen generation, who were Indigenous children who were separated by their parents because of the government policy at that time. And then lastly I came across Devo by N.R. Walker, which is a male-male romance story set in the Western Australian outback. I mean, this cover is pretty cool, and I'll just give it a whirl. Also, the audiobook is only like 4 hours long, so I guess it will count for Shorty September as well. And that will be a nice segue into the main event of September, and that is, of course, Shorty September. I'm hoping most of you will know what Shorty September is, because it's only the best reading event of the year. But if you don't, it is a month-long readathon hosted by Bert and Sean of Pasori Time and Heather of a Sokia expat book nerd, and all you need to do is read short books. What you can count as short, you can decide for yourself. I guess if you always read big fantasy epics, a 300-page book will be quite short for you. I decided to cut it off at 200 pages. There are 12 prompts to fulfill if you want to. And Heather, the creative genius that she is, she made a zine that you can print out. And you should definitely watch her video on how to make this zine, because it is golden. It's not as good as her video about the vacuum, but still very much worth your time. So I haven't really looked yet at what books I could read for each prompt. I know for some of the prompts I will have several options, and then some I don't really know if I have anything that will fit. So yeah, let's quickly go over the prompts. So we have Spanx, which is a book with magic or witchcraft. We have Hoochie Daddy Shorts, which is a spicy read or a revealing gossipy biography. Shorty Shorts, which is a 70s or 80s book. Half and Half Shorts, which is read a book then watch the movie. Mum's Shorts, which is a comfort read. Ripped Shorts, which is a mystery or a slasher. Elizabethan Shorts, which is a historical read. Lederhosen, which is a translated book. We have Pedro Pascal Shorts, an unexpected purchase. Dolphin Shorts, which is a book with water on the cover. We have Lodge Shorts, a book you bought because you're trying to look cool. And lastly, Denim Shorts, a modern classic. So yeah, something like a translated book I'll have, or a modern classic, or something set in the 70s or 80s. That would be quite easy to fulfill. But something like a mystery or a slasher, I'm not sure if I have anything for that. Okay, so let's go over my TBR. I grabbed everything off the shelf that is 200 pages or less. And then I also have a library haul at the end. I have 2 books on my e-reader that would work for translated books. The first is The Employees by Olga Raven. This is a Danish book, and all I've heard that it is weird, and that people find it either brilliantly weird or just too plain weird. The other one is Sick Women Theory, or the Dutch translation thereof, by Joanna Hedva, who is a Swedish author. And this is an essay, I think, about ableism and how it's hard to advocate for your own rights as a disabled person when you are physically too unwell to do so. The rest of the books are all paper copies, and I just took them off my shelves, so they are in random order. The first one is Corregidora by Gail Jones. This has actually been on my TBR for the longest, so I would love to get to this in September, or at least this year. This book is about a woman who is haunted by her family's past as slaves on a Brazilian plantation. So about intergenerational family trauma. It is blurbed by Tiara Jones, James Baldwin and Toni Morrison, and it has a really stunning cover, so sounds really good. I have In the Kitchen, Essays on Food and Life, which is basically just what it says on the cover. I love food writing, so this might be suitable for a comfort read. Heartberries by Therese Marie Mayotte. This is her memoir of her experience growing up on an Indian reservation. It's described as a memorial to her mother, who was a social worker and an activist, and whose husband was a brilliant artist, but also very abusive, and he ended up being murdered. I don't know how they're gonna pack all that in 100 and 26 pages, but I've heard nothing but good things about this. Then I have Surfacing by Margaret Atwood. This is one of her older works, maybe even her debut. No, it's the second novel. I have no idea what this book is about, but I picked it up because so far I've enjoyed everything I've read by Margaret Atwood, and then maybe this is a bit of a cover buy as well. Okay, what's next? We have The Dangers of Smoking in Bed by Mariana Enriquez, which is her second short story collection. I read her first one, The Things We Lost in the Fire, and that was just wonderfully creepy, dark, gothic, twisted, feral witchy tales, and I'm hoping this will be the same. And then the next one is also a cover buy. Look at this sort of vintage 1980s cover. This is Moon Tiger by Penelope Lively, winner of the 1987 Booker Prize. Again, I don't really know what this is about. I think about an elderly woman who is talking about her life on her deathbed. And I think she spent some of her life in Egypt, going by the cover. The Women of Brewster Place by Gloria Naylor. This has been on my want to read list for a long time. It's centered around Brewster Place, which is this run down street in a small American town. I'm not sure if it specifies where exactly. And the book is basically 7 short stories, each from the perspective of a different woman living on that street. And I love a novel that is interlinked stories. Then we have Summer Water by Sarah Moss, and it's one of those books that I feel like I need to read in the summer because it has the word summer in the title. And then September rolls around and I feel like I missed my opportunity again. I think this is set in like a chalet park in Scotland, where there's people going on holiday, but because it's this rainy day, everyone is just basically in their little cabin spying on each other. Yeah, it sounds really good, and I have loved Sarah Moss's books before. And then I have 2 slim Dutch books which I got during a Dutch Book Week. First I have the Book Week essay, which is Boto Banja by Raoul de Jong. I think in this he writes about the early generations of people from the Caribbean who started discovering the world after slavery was abolished. And then there is the Book Week gift, which this year was De Eerlijke Vinder by Lise Spit. And I have no idea what this is about. The cover doesn't really give me any clue either. But I read another book by this author that I really enjoyed. And then I have Blood Feast, the complete short stories of Malika Moustadraf. A feminist icon in contemporary Moroccan literature, Malika Moustadraf is celebrated for her stark interrogation of gender and sexuality in North Africa. Yeah, this is translated from the Arabic by Alice Guthrie. There's The Last One by Fatima Das, which is a book about a young woman who is trying to find her footing in Paris as a queer woman and a daughter of Algerian immigrants. And I thought this was fiction, but then I flipped through it and I saw that every chapter starts with, I don't know if you can see it, my name is Fatima or my name is Fatima Das. So it might be more autofiction. And then the last book from my own TBR before we move on to the library books is A Small Place by Jamaica Kincaid. And this is an essay the author wrote about the island of Antigua. It says, Kincaid, eloquent and resolute, reminds us that the Antiguan people, formerly British subjects, are unable to escape the same drawbacks of their own tiny realm, that behind the benevolent Caribbean scenery are human lives, always complex and often fraught with injustice. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading some Jamaica Kincaid. Okay, let's move on to the books I got from the library. I had a lot of fun going through the shelves and just not looking at the titles, just going by size. I have Hex, Hex, Hex by Jente Postuma. She is a Dutch author and she recently had a book translated into English as well, which I've seen a few people reading. I can't remember the title, but I'll put it up on the screen. In this, she gives her own take on some old stereotypes about witches, and I think it's like a retelling of some old Dutch folk tales. I have Beneden by Leonora Carrington. The English title is down below. Leonora Carrington is an artist. I'm guessing the cover is a painting by her as well. Yes, it is. And obviously she wrote as well. And this is about her involuntary commitment to a psychiatric facility in the 1940s after her then lover was captured by the German Gestapo and she suffered a mental breakdown. To be taught if unfortunate by Becky Chambers, I read The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet at the beginning of the year, and I think it's still my favorite book of the year so far, or at least in the top 3. I think this is about space exploration as well, and I'm hoping it will give off the same sort of found family vibes that The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet had. Then I have The Faster I Walk, The Smaller I Am by Kjersti Annesdatter Skomsvold. This is the Dutch version and it is translated from Norwegian. I'm not entirely sure what this is about. I think it's about an elderly woman who is afraid of not having made an impression on the world. I've seen a few people read this. I think maybe Jen Campbell has spoken about this book. I have Binti by Nnedi Okorafor. This is definitely a book a lot of people have talked about on BookTube, and as always, the more people who have read it, the less I actually pay attention to what the book is about. It's a sci-fi story where a girl is the first in her family who gets offered a place at this prestigious university, but then that means she has to leave her family behind. And then something completely different is Flush by Virginia Woolf. This is a sort of autobiography of the dog, the Cocker Spaniel of the poet Elizabeth Barrett Browning. And I flipped through this, and you know how dogs will start to look like their owners and vice versa. So here's Flush, and then here is Elizabeth Browning, and I thought that was pretty funny. This is Lege Kasten. The English title is Empty Wardrobes, I believe, by the Portuguese author Maria Judith de Carvalho. This was first published in 1966 and it's a novel about the role that women played in a male-dominated society. And I'm hoping it will be a bit of a sort of feminist forgotten classic. Then we have Mrs. Caliban by Rachel Ingalls. which I think is about a woman who has a love affair with a creature from the ocean. And I'm hoping it will be as wonderfully weird as that sounds. This is Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. I read Foster, which is another shorty, earlier this year, and I really loved that. This, I believe, is based on a place in Ireland where young girls and women were sent to when they were pregnant outside of marriage, and they were forced to work and have their babies adopted. It sounds like it might be a difficult book, but I think Claire Keegan will handle it delicately. Okay, I have two more. We have De gelukzalige jaren van tucht by Fleur J.G. This has been translated into English as well, but I can't quite remember the English title. She is a Swiss author who wrote in Italian, and this is about a girls' boarding school in the Swiss mountains, where one day a new girl arrives who shakes everything up. And then lastly we have Annie Ernaux. This could definitely be a book for the prompt of a book you got because you were trying to look cool, because all the cool kids are reading Annie Ernaux, right? I mean, she's definitely having her moment after she won the Nobel Prize. Anyway, she writes autofiction, and this book, Shame, is about a moment in her life when her parents had this big fight and her father threatened her mother with a knife. It'll be my first Annie Ernaux, and I'm very curious to see what I will make of her writing. Okay, this is it. These are all the options I have for Shorty September. I have 2 weeks of annual leave at the beginning of September, and I will be going on a train trip to Austria. I will try and read a book a day for those 2 weeks, and then maybe I will vlog as well, but I'm not making any promises in that regard. But please do leave me any tips of what I should do there. I will be visiting Vienna, Innsbruck and Salzburg, and if you've been there and know of any cool spots I should visit, then please let me know. And then obviously tell me about all your Shorty September reading plans. Yeah, that's it for today. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.